News Community Foundation for having me be able to come back and do part two of Posting with Intention. Again, this is the second part of that series, so it is a little bit more of a collaborative working session. I am excited to be able to build on some of the fundamentals that we talked about last time, while also being able to refresh anyone who is new or who is returning. So by the end of this session, you will have been able to again build on some of those foundations from the beginner's guide and also have a more in-depth understanding about how you can craft your core message, reach your target audience, and develop a strategic messaging system. So you will have opportunity to ask me questions about anything related to the previous session, those handouts that I had last time, which will be available again at the end of the session, as well as any questions you have when we go section by section. There will be a 2-minute Q&A opportunity if you would like to ask questions at that time. So feel free to reserve your questions for those opportunities. And as this will be more of a collaborative session, feel free to have any note paper or maybe a document open if you would like to take notes. But to prime us for today's session, I want to be able to get you thinking about the importance of preparation. So we're already midway through March. I know mentally I cannot process that, but that is where we are. Across St. Louis, you may have noticed some lone trees, flowers, or bushes that are blooming on their own, maybe seemingly out of nowhere. While it's easy to assume that these plants are popping up without a reason, their sudden growth is cleverly calculated. As with social media fundraising, this strategic growth is the result of what happens when the gardener's best work is actually a season prior and it goes under the radar. Starting in March, gardeners pay special attention to plants like these. In the chat, or if you unmute, can someone guess why that is? Any guesses? It's also okay if no guesses. Mm. Okay, dead plants from previous seasons reseeded to the new ones. Yes, so we're carrying the thought of a previous season to a new season. So what I will say is that like us, gardeners use a strategic plan for success. They plant seeds after that last frost for plants that they want to be able to harvest in the summer. So in March, they take advantage of the spring weather so that they can reap the fruits of their labor come summer, which is very similar to what we will be doing. When we think about why that matters, it's because our best work doesn't start at the fruit of our labor or when the give day actually happens. It's during that preparation season where it's more dormant, when we're starting to think about what will go into our give day strategy. But rest assured, you don't need to have a green thumb to be the gardener of your social media fundraising campaign. All that you need is to be prepared to water the fruit of your labor. So the next time you see a lone tree or a flower blooming on your walk or your drive, may you see the growth process as a result of strategic preparation, which is what we will be doing today to allow our plants or our growth plan to grow. So let's get prepared for the upcoming Give STL Day season. As a reminder for anyone who is coming back from the previous session or new, my approach to strategic communications with Restore Roots Co. is about charting a path to long-term success for organizations by starting them at the root so that we can get to the fruit of their labor. And in this session today, that will be helping you to solidify your social media fundraising strategy. We are again going to use that 5-step growth process where we will follow that to build a clear and effective campaign for Give STL Day. And as this workshop evolves, again, this is a wonderful time to be able to take notes or to have some note paper out so that you can engage well. So when we're thinking about that 5-step growth process or plan, I want to cover what each section will look like, which will also be guiding us for today's session. The first is thinking about it as a pot, right? As a plant We need the pot or number one, our core message. This is the foundation for our social media fundraising content. The second piece, once you have your base, is the soil. Your audience is the content, is the opportunity for you to be able to grow everything else from for social media fundraising. The third step in our growth process is planting your seeds. So now that you have your pot and your soil, you're going to be able to actually build what will be growing from this basis. And this is what the majority of your social media content will be comprised of. And the fourth bit, once you have your plant in place, is when we are going to water it. We're going to be going more in depth about creating captions and also going through some exercises about how to identify strong captions and call to actions. And last will again be the social media content calendar. So taking every bit of what it takes to create a social media post and being able to think about how to create consecutive posts outside of just that one single post for Give Day. So for anyone who is new or returning, I want to make sure that we go over what social media fundraising is together for a shared understanding. Social media fundraising is excellent for Give STL Day because it leverages social platforms to connect us with our donors, help us to represent ourselves, and to raise donations. Social media fundraising is most effective when we are clear in our messaging. Our messaging is audience driven, and we make sure that our strategy is about being specific and consistent when we are trying to connect with our audience. And just as a reminder, something to keep in mind is that we are needing to be specific because we don't get as much visibility on social media without being able to tailor our message to our audience. On average, only 2 to 6% of anyone's followers see a single unpaid post in their feed. So this is just a organic post that you create and put onto your social media. Even though those odds are low, the chances for return are much higher when we are able to engage with our target audience. When we know ourselves, we know our audience better. So let's explore some new techniques that can help you to create or refine your core message. So again, the core message is like the pot of your plant. This is the foundation for all of your future messaging when it comes to tailoring it to your audience. It is going to offer a clear roadmap for everything else that you do, so you won't have to be making up new content. This is the basis from which we will build. So, when it comes to building your core message, last time I offered just a simple template that I often use for nonprofits. But if you are struggling with how to build out your core message, there are three general sources of inspiration that you can use. Oftentimes, we rely on our business goals, our mission statement, or our unique selling point. The unique selling point describes why a donor should support your nonprofit over another organization. So just think about it as what makes you unique to where an organization would choose you versus going with a different direction. Today, I want to be able to build more into that unique selling point. This will be tangible. It's something that is real and it shows the tangible outcomes of your work. That can look like anything from statistics to client stories, anything that helps you illustrate the clear impact of what donor dollars can do for your nonprofit. Again, this is something that helps you to humanize your message. So we can use me as an example with Restore Roots Co. to be able to show you what a unique selling point will look like. So, say for instance, I would like to speak to my target audience. I am a St. Louis-based creative, strategist, and storyteller who wants to tell my audience what sets my work apart from the rest. So, for example, I could say, our process uses evidence-based training, custom self-healing practices, and trauma-informed language to drive participants' healing and storytelling. Or I could say, we help people with marginalized identities heal and reclaim their stories using social justice communications so that they can invest in lifelong healing work against oppression. So, taking those two sentences in, can you tell us which one of these statements stands out to you and why? And where do you notice a difference? Yes, the second one is more people-centric and keyword focused. Yes, absolutely. Any other thoughts on top of that? Yes, using more active words versus passive language, showing the action of what I'm doing. Excellent, excellent. Both of those observations are wonderful. Um, And yes, also using words that might stand out to my audience. So, something that you all notice, and thank you, Matthew and Jill, for bringing that up, is that the first side really shows more of the details for maybe a specific audience that wants to know more about the impact of the process. But on the right side, when I'm thinking about maybe forward facing messaging, when I'm thinking about what matters most to my audience, what are their pain points? What are their interests? Being able to show them what I'm actively doing to try to address some of their interest or some of their struggles allows me to create a message that is more active and uses more verbs to show how we are making that impact. I want you to just take note of how you can try to show the impact to your audience when you're centering their needs. So, when you're trying to write a core message, you can build out your own unique selling point to give you some direction as to what you might want to include in it. So, here are some questions that I will offer and pose to you to be able to think about your unique selling point. You're going to want to consider what sets you apart from your competitors. Where is your organization innovating and where are you leading in the industry? What stories from your clients speak to the essence of your work, mission, and vision? What are outcomes that show your work? Maybe impact or stories or achievements recently? I want you to be able to have some time to think about these questions that are specific to your nonprofit. So I'm going to give you a minute to brainstorm your answers to these questions before we apply them to the concept of building a core message, and we'll come back together. I'm going to go ahead and give you that time now. All right, you have about 10 seconds left to wrap up your thoughts. All right, as we're coming back together in the chat, I would love to hear if one of you would like to share one thing that you think sets your organization apart from the rest. Hey, I see with Matthew, we're on average 45% cheaper than every other gymnastics academy in Missouri. That's excellent. Not only is what you stated have some tangible numbers, but it also is very place-based to Missouri. Mm, thank you, Lana. The thing that sets your organization apart is that you offer help very immediately, with very little barriers to being able to access your organization's services. That's wonderful. I see here with Jill, the holistic offerings of our program support the entire working woman who is trying to better her career and financial situation. Excellent. And I also appreciate that that speaks to what some of the target audience's struggles may be and trying to advance the career and also address financial concerns. Hey, so here with Matthew. We are leading the industry in a new philosophy centered around the individuality rather than carbon copies. And we have stories from our clients saying it's okay to just be you. Excellent. So it's showing in a way that participants who are a part of the program feel a sense of being accepted or that they feel it is personalized to their experience. Wonderful, wonderful. All right. So I want you to keep those in mind as we try to take another crack at our core message. I use this framework that I'm about to show you in my everyday work with nonprofits to help steer them towards how to best engage with their audience. This sentence looks like we help our audience solve what problem by our work so that they can experience an impact or change. My task for you is to fill in the blanks again, thinking about your unique selling point. These are some of the things that came top to mind to you, so they are likely top to mind to your audience. I want you to be able to think if you appreciate your core message from last time, how could you tweak it? I'll give you about 1 to 2 minutes to brainstorm, and then we will share out again. And remember to make sure that your core message has a clear audience. You're speaking to the solution for your audience's problem, and that is about centering the impact and the change of your work. I will give you some time here again to be able to work through that. Right, you have about 20 more seconds to brainstorm, maybe wrap up. All right, coming back together, I would love if a few people would be willing to share what their core message is in the chat. If this is a new core message or if you've had any tweaks to it, I'd love to see that as well. Okay, I see one from Matthew here. We can just try to read through it first. So, Dream Flight helps children of all ages and needs gain affordable access to a wholly unique cohesion of gymnastics, dance, theater, and writing as an interdisciplinary program impacting growth in a child's or teen's personal confidence, individual strength, and collective positivity through the body and mind. Excellent. I do see this note that it may be too long. What I would say is always thinking about specifics. So sometimes for a core message, specifics may be the location or the city in which this work is done or which the audience is from. Sometimes the details may go into exactly how the work happens or what those programs are. So in my mind, it is not too long because I think that you clearly show at the end what this is culminating to, the impact that this is having on the audience. And so those three aspects on confidence, strength, and collective positivity can be what you build off of going forward. I see one from Lana here. We help homeless clients get immediate shelter by offering motel stays so they can get cleaned up, rested, and start a job search. Excellent. What I would also consider too when it comes to impact is thinking about how it may be related to a larger mission and vision. Maybe what the outlook might be like for the clients, maybe a season or years from now, based on their experience in this particular process. But this is really excellent basis and foundation for a core message. And I see another one here from Jill. We help women get unstuck in their careers through coaching, financial education, and building necessary professional skills so they can thrive in their economic journeys. I think this is excellent. It is able to show that vision, what we hope to see for our audience and the impact, and also clear to the programs. So wonderful. I think that the unique selling points, again, if having more time to meditate on that can give more insight as to what you want your core message to be. So I have a minute that I would like to give you all. If you have any questions specifically on core messaging, you don't have to if you don't have any. There will be multiple opportunities for Q&A, but this can be related to anything from the past two sessions, that handout, or anything that we just covered now, if you would like to unmute or to enter it into the chat. And then if not, we can also move on. All right. If there are no further questions, I will be able to address any questions on a section going forward. But again, feel free to ask them when we get to our Q&A time. All right. So once you have your core message built out, you're able to go from the pot to applying the soil. And in this aspect of our growth process, that is your target audience. Again, it's the soil in which everything else will build from, your key messages, your captions, your social media fundraising content. We want to remember that our strategy with our social media posts is specificity, and who you will be specifying your message to is the target audience. This is a specific group of stakeholders that you need to reach with messages that are tailored to them so that they will act in alignment with your business goals and your mission. So we can briefly recap the common target audience groups is that match what you are interested in doing for Give STL Day because we're going to use them in the upcoming exercise. So when you are going through the target audiences with me this time around, again, you want to make note of if there is a particular audience group or two that you would like to use for the upcoming exercise. The first is going to be donors and investors. These are, of course, people who are providing financial support to the organization. The second is your beneficiaries. So these are direct recipients of your services. These are oftentimes called clients or participants, but again, these are the people we are serving. Third are your volunteers. These are individuals who are donating their time, their skills, and advocacy for the nonprofit's behalf. The fourth are going to be your advocates or even partners. These are people who are supporting the nonprofit through social following, public awareness, and collaboration. And last are those internal stakeholders. So these make up your leadership team, your staff members, your board, and any committees that your nonprofit has. Again, we want to make sure that we prioritize one to at max two audiences as our focus for our social media content for Give STL Day so that we can build our messaging out from there. So, something that can help you to understand your target audience a little bit more is that some feedback that I received is being able to create a target audience profile. It's an effective way to help you personify who you're trying to tailor this message to. I want you to treat a target audience profile like an actual person. So I want you to be able to envision in this moment someone who is a good example of your current audience. This could be someone like a donor, a client, a volunteer, or maybe even a friend that is a good representative of the people that you serve. For this example, I've created an audience profile for my advocates at Restore Roots Co. And again, advocates are people who are championing your mission. So these might be your followers, these might be people driving public awareness, these might be people who are spreading information about your nonprofit by word of mouth. So I named my advocate Anaya because I wanted to be able to give a name to it and making sure I'm building out a profile that consists of general characteristics that reflect what my advocates' demographics tend to be. So we can go through them one by one. For instance, my advocate group is oftentimes comprised of people who are working at mission-oriented nonprofits. A lot of the times they're entrepreneurs, and I also serve people who work in education, whether that be K through 12 or in higher education. Many of the advocates or people who are part of my social following are between the ages of 24 and 30. They are often self-identified women, and they are also often Black women or a part of the BIPOC community. Generally speaking, I serve people who are in St. Louis, but I also have connection with Los Angeles and New York City as primary cities in which I would do my work. When I'm thinking about my advocates and what they turn to my services for, a lot of them are passionate or interested about wellness, about yoga or somatic work. They oftentimes love to do writing or journaling. They love storytelling, and they also like to try new things. And that helps me to cater my services to being updated with what certain trends are going on. The motivations for my advocates, why they want to engage with my nonprofit, is that they oftentimes tell me they want to challenge the status quo. They feel as though there needs to be more opportunities for wellness in our daily lives, and that my work and my mission matches with their motivation. When I'm thinking about their pain points or what their struggle and challenges are, they oftentimes are coming to the spaces that I create because they want a like-minded community. They may feel isolated or in silos, and by offering sessions in our collective, we create those spaces to break up some of that isolation. And again, that solution to their pain points, how we help with their major struggles and challenges is that at Restore Roots Co., we create a network of creatives that come together in person and also come together virtually. So I wanted you to be able to take note of those audience groups in the beginning to try to see if there's one that you would like to be able to build out in a target audience profile. And I want you to be able to have some time to try that. Again, this is just about thinking, what your audience's general interest, values, and background are, because that helps you decide how you want to tailor your core message to what actually will matter to them. And I want to be able to give you some time to work on that. So again, I'm going to lay out the template here. You can enter in or write down what your audience type will be. Again, that can look like donors or investors, your beneficiaries, your volunteers, advocates, or internal stakeholders. I want you to think about what some of their general occupations might be, what some of their demographics might be, whichever ones are relevant to the work that you do, the location that they're in, so where they're based in or where they live in, or where you exact your services, what some general passions or interests they have as to why they are interested in working with your nonprofit, or the way in which you do your work, how that aligns with their values and interest. Thinking about their motivations, what drives them to want to engage with your work, what drives them to want to follow and keep up with you. Next is just thinking about those pain points. So, what their major challenge and struggles are in life, somewhat relating it to the rest of this audience profile. And essentially, we want to ask that question to think about how our work solves their problem. So, I'm going to give you about 2 minutes to be able to explore this. And when we come back together, I would love to be able to hear some of what you've come up with. So, I will give you that time now. You have about 15 seconds left to wrap up some thoughts. All right. And again, the content on all these slides will be available for you if you would like to return to them in more depth if you didn't have a lot of time to be able to fill them in. But for those of us who were able to spend a little bit of time thinking about it, can you tell us something that you noticed while filling out your target audience profile? Is there anything that stood out to you, or any way you're interested in relating this to your STO, your Give STO Day messaging? Okay, I see from Jill saying that the advocates or those champions of the mission are often members who are currently in our program or alums of our program. So it's interesting to think about messaging in that capacity. Definitely, definitely. And I think they're thinking about how their passions and interest may have adjusted or aligned if they are returning to the program, but also still some of those shared motivations and interests that they have for those who may be new to the program. And I would honestly consider more of the adjustment in what their pain points or their struggles might be after going through the program versus when they started. So I think that there's definitely some opportunity to be able to tailor or slightly adjust the core message based on what their new interest or new struggles might be. Absolutely. Okay, I see one here from Matthew that says, hard to think about how to get outside the people already in our program because we need higher level donors. They give a donor being Dr. Appleseed, who works with children in St. Louis, who is motivated by wanting the kids he engages with to grow up in a Trumpless future where creativity and individuality can thrive and where kids no longer need to choose between athleticism and the arts. I appreciate that. What I would say is that you are very much on the right track with being able to envision someone very clearly in what their motivations are and what their vision is for the future and how that can align well with the mission and vision for the organization. So something that I would consider, or at least be able to build off of as you're going forward, is thinking about how you might be able to generalize that out amongst other donors and investors. Say, for instance, I might know the general age ranges, like maybe if there's some that match with investors who may have a certain background or maybe coming to the organization for similar interests and reasons, and seeing if they can align to certain aspects of what you have listed here. But this is a very good start as to thinking about what motivates people to want to engage with the nonprofit and want to invest in it, what they envision for the future because of the nonprofit's existence, or the concept at least that you are built to last and to be able to address some of the concerns that this donor has and how you can try to communicate that out. Okay. To keep us on track, I want to be able to offer that question space again. If you have any other questions or any additional questions based on what you shared, related again to the target audience, or when you're using a target audience to build your social media fundraising strategy. All right. If there are no further questions on this, again, feel free if any questions come up into the future aspect of the session. All right. So when we are getting into the base of our growth plan, we've already established who or what our core message is, who we want to target when we're tailoring our message to our target audience. And now we are ready to apply some of the seeds into the mix, which is the actual strategic messaging that goes into our social media fundraising strategy. So again, it allows us to connect and make connections with our target audience by considering their problem and being able to offer insight from the work that we do, as well as our approach to solving their problem. This is a major way in which we make connections because we are centering our audience and what matters to them in our work. Because if not for the problems that they have, our work likely would not need to exist. So we want to make sure that our social media fundraising content focuses on how we are communicating our impact to the audiences that we want to specify when it comes to asking for donations. So in this section, we're going to practice taking a core message, a target audience, and their values, and being able to identify examples of strong messaging, strong content pillars, and caption best practices, building on what we had from last time. So if anyone is new to the space, I will still be able to go over the definitions or just being able to help you understand what those are. But before we begin that practice, I want to be able to prime you with a little bit more of an in-depth crash course into the values for each audience. So you can think about the audiences or the audience group that you selected and be able to take some notes on what drives or best suits that audience when it comes to what you're going to put into your social post and captions. And remembering that when you're thinking about your value pillars, you want to ask yourself, what about your work and your impact matters most to your audience? So, again, you might want to think about what your audience praises you for, where your work is aligned with the values, missions, and interest of your audience, and what drives people to want to join, volunteer, or support your cause. So we're going to keep those in mind as we do a quick overview and breakdown of value pillars for each audience. So starting with donors and investors. Again, these are people who are going to be offering that financial support. We want to communicate that we are built to last and that we are leading in the industry so that they will continue investing. Their major driver is often seeing impact results and that their values align with that of the nonprofit. When we're thinking about messaging, we want to focus on showing them their return on investment. So donors are often considered co-creators of tangible results and growth in our organization. So in your messaging, you can refer to them as co-creators, as people who are supporting the direction in which your nonprofit is going. And again, you want to make sure that your mission and vision is clear and clearly clarified, and that you're also able to speak to growth for the nonprofit in the future, as well as the impact you are having on people and what shows up in data. The next audience we'll look at is your beneficiaries. Again, these are our participants and clients. Without their problems, our work likely would not need to exist. So when we're thinking about drivers, they are more concerned about benefits, more concerned about having agency and their voices being heard in our messaging, and also the way in which they're referred to in a dignified manner, especially when it comes to spotlighting audience members and their voices and their testimonials, being able to showcase the impact on their lives with dignity. So our messaging focus is going to be about usefulness and solutions. So clients are the co-designers of the world that we want to see. So we can think about how we can emphasize our relevance to them, center their voices and input in our social post, again, like those testimonials that you can offer, and being able to show how what is happening in our organization is benefiting them in their future. The next audience is our volunteers. Again, those are people who are donating their time and their advocacy, which is the backbone of our nonprofit and makes our work possible. So, what drives them is the desire to be in community, their compassion for other people, and also the feeling of purpose when they are involved with our nonprofit. So we're thinking about messaging. We want to generally think about personal alignment. So volunteers are really concerned about how our work and how our future work will align with their personal roadmap and how they want to be able to show up having community and collaborating with others. So we want to make sure that we are acknowledging the impact our volunteers have on others, especially in our messaging, being able to say that this would not be possible without you, without our audience, as well as centering their values. Again, remembering what the values or the mission vision are for our organization and how that aligns with them. And being able to say that we are building this future together. And that's something that can go into your messaging. The next one, audience, is your advocates, again, your champions of your mission. The driver for them is being able to support change. So, social change, a future where your mission vision is possible. They're ambassadors of your mission vision, and they also care about being knowledgeable about the topics that you specialize in your work. So the messaging here is being able to communicate that you want your audience to be informed change makers. You want them to be up to date on most recent trends or what is most important because it helps them to drive awareness and reach for your nonprofit to help influence change in the world. Again, we want to be able to position ourselves with credibility, that we can educate on what we know best, and that we are also centering how we are innovating and being creative to build the world that we want to see together. And then last is those internal stakeholders or your team. These are people who are going to be concerned about transparency and about aligning with the mission. They are more concerned about relevancy and purpose because they want to be able to have pride in the work they do and have it clearly stated how they are contributing to the vision. So if you are creating messaging for your team, being able to show how they are contributing to the goals that we have going forward for this year and why this work matters to them and why their work helps drive our impact of what we want a future of success to look like. So, when we are going for the core message to creating key messages, we want to remember that key messages are memorable points that showcase your nonprofit's value. We want to ensure that our key messages are simple and concise, that they are consistent, and that they are both relatable and relevant to your target audience. Again, you're going to want to make sure that you have 3 to 5 key messages to use across your social post for Give Day. So, we can get into an example. I want you to look at these 2 key messages that we could use in a Give Day caption. One could say, "We rely on our donations to serve our participants," and the other could say, "Every $50 you contribute pays for a free therapeutic healing session for our participants." Could you tell me in the chat or unmuting which one of these statements stands out to you and what works or doesn't work about the statement? Absolutely, absolutely. I'm seeing the common thread. Thank you, Lauren, Matthew, and Jill. That the second one not only may catch your attention because of the tangible impact that could be made with a specific number or dollar amount, this could also be a percentage, but also that it is showing you exactly how your dollars can support our impact. So, this is a way where you may be able to align that concept with the audience you're trying to target. So let's look at another example. So one says, "Your contribution makes our movement possible. Help us raise $10,000 to expand our healing work this Give STL Day." And the second says, "We need you to show up for us this Give STL Day." Again, just as you all have noted, one option speaks directly to how your audience can help you make an impact. There might be a tangible number that you're trying to raise, and being able to think about how you can position them as making your impact possible. So we're looking at the second one here. We need you to show up for us this Give STL Day. Can someone offer how you might tweak this or what would be helpful to know to improve upon this sentence? Absolutely. Thank you, Lana. Being able to propose that they give a certain amount and share the post with others. Exactly what you're speaking to is being able to add some specificity, right? Our strategy being specificity and how our audience shows up for us, and also a call to action, which we will touch on in a moment, of being able to drive the audience about what to do next. Perfect. So, to move us along, we want to recap identifying content pillars. So, once you have your key message, your content pillar is the frame for which all your key messages will go into. They're generally speaking the core themes that serve as containers for you to create consistent messaging for your social media. These are generally broad and overarching categories. So, again, these will look like the main categories of educate, showcase, and activate. You'll want to keep your content pillars to about 1 to 3 per campaign. So let's look at how this might look for us. When you have your content pillars, you want to make sure that you can back up your claims. So proof points are essentially the evidence that validate the claims that you're going to make. The claims you're making are about how you can show up to be the solution to your audience's problems. You want to make sure that they are either data or evidence based, that they can be more people centric, like having testimonials or thank yous, and that they, generally speaking, are showing impact and tangible results, as we went through just before. To align with the key messages, if you have a key message, you want to have a proof point that aligns with each. So if you have 3 key messages, you'd want 3 proof points, and so on and so forth. We can apply this to a matching exercise. So here is a Give STL Day social post idea where we can try to connect it to the correct content pillar. Again, the options are educate, showcase, or activate. So for early giving day, I want to create a carousel of my team working behind the scenes in one of our programs. Which content pillar would this type of post fall into? Okay, educate. Any other guesses? All right, it will actually fall into showcase. And here is the reason why. What I'm doing is showcasing how our work happens behind the scenes. Generally speaking, showcase posts can be before or afters. They can give your audience exclusive takes into the work that you're doing. You may create a post where you would like for people to be able to meet your staff members or meet your clients. You can also show your work in action, as well as exclusive stories, quotes, recaps, or highlights and testimonials. So I want you to be able to consider how you might use post in that showcase pillar to be able to show impact for your organization. Now, let's look at another example. So before I give STL Day, I want to create a carousel that explains how we're building a movement through our programs. Have any idea of what pillar that might fall into? Yes, perfect. Educating, inspiring is also key. Educate post are oftentimes using that keyword of explaining, right? Describing how we are making something possible. So posts like these may have to do with showing by the numbers, where you may have detailed statistics about your impact most recently. They can provide how-tos, they can show tips for your audience, as well as did you know post, where you might educate them on something that you and your nonprofit are very knowledgeable about. And again, just wanting to think about how educate post may serve you for Give STL Day. And to move us along through the caption and call to action, once you have your content pillars and you have your proof points, it's essential to be able to craft a caption that is concise and actionable because it's going to motivate your audience to take a specific action. These are vital because they're going to tell your audience what to do next. And oftentimes, these may sound like donate or join or support us or sign up here, especially when it comes to social media fundraising. You're going to want to make sure that your captions are between about 10 to 50 words. I'd say ideally 10 to 20 words. And oftentimes they're going to have those action-based verbs at the front. They also may look like follow, tag, share, or even save the date if it's an early giving post. So, when we're thinking about captions best practices, we want to make sure that in our captions, we optimize for the platform. So, you can use emojis sparingly because they are helpful for engagement in captions. As well as the hashtag for Give STL Day, you may include 1 to 2 hashtags that are relevant to your brand and also tag other non-competitive organizations that relate to the theme of your work. You also want to ensure that you're using links that are clickable. For instance, with Instagram, it is very important that you either have links in your stories or that you mention to go to a link in bio or a very, very shortened link because they're not clickable. Generally speaking, with all social platforms, or the majority, maybe except for X, you want to prioritize having strong visuals that allow you to engage with and grab your audience's attention. And you also want to make sure that within that first line of your caption, you're thinking about it like the hook of a story. So this can be a short line. It's the first thing that your audience is going to see to stop your scroll. So you may want to ask a question, convey urgency with time, like saying we're less than a week away from Give Day, or you may even use numbers and percentages, like when I mentioned the $50 that a person can contribute to impact our work. So we can look at an example of a caption for a pre-Give STL Day post to see what works and what doesn't. So for instance, I could say that tomorrow is Give STL Day. Early giving is open, and our goal is to raise 10,000 to sustain our transformative healing work. So we want to take a moment thinking about the previous exercise of what works and what's missing. What I'm wondering when you look at this caption is what do you think is missing? Yes, link to donate. Essentially, what we're missing is that call to action. Perfect. So, for instance, a link to donate is something that you can include for early giving post, but you may also include particular phrasing like if this is for tomorrow, being able to follow the account to stay tuned, being able to give because this is an early giving post, or even saving the date depending on how far out you are creating your post for. And again, very similar to what you all said. So, when we are thinking about assembling posts, we want to make sure that we are utilizing those content calendars. Content calendars is what is going to give your work the life that it needs to be able to shine. So, when we're thinking about what content calendars are, we want to remember that they're going to outline your core message, your target audience, and your value pillars so that you can decide what content or theme groups, what evidence you want to use, and what call to actions you can use. You're able to use this, especially in the deliverable that I will have available again, as well as what was available last time, to be able to build out your weekly social media planning templates. And these content calendars also help you with generally brainstorming how you can take one post per week and expand it out while keeping them in alignment with your general theme. And yes, the deliverables will be available after the session. I will walk you through that in just a second. So, Yes, when it comes to developing a posting schedule, just for this last piece, I highly advise beginning your planning now and thinking about what post, at least one, you can create per week around Give STL Day. So you could make one before the early giving day, which is on April 22nd. You could also make one on the early giving day itself, as well as before and on Give STL Day, which is May 8th. And lastly, on or after. So on the give day or after the give day. So that can be at least one day after where you have calculated how much you've raised and want to make sure that you're thanking your audience for the contributions while continuing to stay engaged with your work. And generally speaking, posting a minimum of 3 to 5 times. So that might look like one post per week if you're doing it before, the week of, and after. But you want to post at the frequency in which is consistent for your organization. So if you consistently have something that is intentional, varied, and different to say for each post, that is opportunity for posting every day. But I would truly recommend what is most consistent. So say, for instance, my organization posts generally speaking, 3 times a week. I'd want to keep that cadence because not only does it help with the algorithm, but that also helps with audience engagement. So the reason why we use content calendars is so that we can think intentionally about why we are making a post and what it is speaking to. Is it being used to convey one of our core messages? Is it being used for one of those proof points? That helps you to not feel like you have to post all the time, but truly speaking to the right people without overburdening you or the audience. So again, we have walked through the fundamentals of a growth process that starts from pot to plant. One being crafting our core message, two being tailoring our content to our audience, three being building a strategic messaging system, four being creating captions with a call to action, and five being able to put all of that together into a social content calendar. So when you're using the deliverables, you will have at the end of it the option to be able to use the content calendars I've created to help you brainstorm social media content. I want to make space if there are any questions and this last opportunity for questions before going into how to access the deliverables. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. I will be able to answer any questions, but I do want to make sure that I'm getting you all along. I am greatly honored to have been able to walk you through not just one, but a two-part series about how to prime you in building a Give STL Day social media fundraising campaign. There is absolutely a way to contact me with questions. So here is so I will have a survey available because I would love to stay connected with you all. And I would also love to be able to receive any feedback about how I can make my sessions better for you all and anyone in the future who is interested in social media fundraising and also communication strategies. So I will make sure that we get this link to you in the chat, and you will also be able to access the link in the email follow-up with the presentation. So let me see if I can go ahead and paste that link into the chat, and hopefully this all works for you. This is a very, very brief survey, again, to make sure that I am meeting your needs. And once you complete the survey, I will have your contact information, be able to follow up with that social media fundraising brainstorming kit. And if you have any questions that are very specific to your nonprofit, I'm very much happy to continue to support you every step of the way and see how I can help you when it comes to being perfectly primed and prepared for Give STL Day. And here I do see one note that says my focus is primarily via Facebook I don't really know much about my audience there. Okay. So one thing about Facebook is that it does offer the ability to look at your metrics in your professional dashboard, but you can also try to look at who consistently maybe follows or engages with the post, who some of those followers might be, and try to break it down there. So I can't necessarily say with the information I have right now that I would know exactly how to support you, but I would be more than happy to be able to help walk you through that, and being able to see how you can best tailor your messaging to your Facebook group. And of course, you all can stay connected with me if you have any further questions, and I don't want to run you all over with too much time. But my email is available. My LinkedIn is just Lauren A. Pickett. And going through this survey again, I will have your contact information so I can spend more time um, responding to what some of your notes are and your inquiries are. And again, I will paste the link into the chat just one more time because I know that that is the direct link. But I want to thank you all so much for taking this time to go over the second half of Posting with Intention with me. I truly hope that these tips and offerings and exercises helped you to get a better sense of how you can show up for your audience and how you can grow your social media fundraising strategy for this upcoming Give STL Day. Thank you so, so much. Thank you so, so much. Please have a great rest of your day and your week. This wonderful weather outside. Please get out and enjoy it if you can. And I'm very excited to see what you all produce for the upcoming Give STL Day.